What's going on, guys? SpikeZillion here, and I'm just going to start right off the bat by saying I'm sick right now, so I'm really sorry if I sound terrible. I really am not feeling good, and I wanted to stream the last couple of days. I wanted to stream some more Satisfactory. Sadly, I haven't been able to because I've been feeling terrible. This is like the first day in the first couple of days that I've felt okay, but I'm still very, very stuffy, and I still cough a little bit, so just keep that in mind as we go through this video. Anyways, today I wanted to react to a particular video that I did like earlier this week, and I did watch half of it, and that's because I had to stop. I had to stop, and I was like, I have to talk about this video, because I love this video. This is from a channel called XBell. I will leave a link to XBell in the description down below. Please go subscribe to them. They are awesome. I'm actually not subscribed yet, and I will subscribe right now. They make a lot of awesome shorts in particular, but they also make pretty good content in general. And I've been really hooked on their Pokemon content. It's getting me right back into Pokemon again. For those of you who don't know, because I seem to do a little bit of everything on this channel at this point, before Yu-Gi-Oh!, before Smash, and before COD, it was Pokemon. Pokemon was my first competitive game that I was interested in, and I was a Smogon guy, so I played a lot of Pokemon Showdown. As you can see, the wonderful Pac-Man in the background. I'm mixing both worlds here, and we're getting some great ads for Claritin, because I definitely need that right now. And so, yeah, I am very much well-versed in Pokemon. I basically stopped playing in Gen 7 because it fucking sucked, and then I got back into it in Gen 8. It was sort of interesting again with Dynamaxing, and then they banned Dynamaxing, and it kind of got boring again. Not that it was, like, bad for them to ban Dynamaxing. I think it made sense, but it was just kind of boring. So then everyone just kind of went to NatDex format, and NatDex format was a lot of fun, and then it kind of got annoying because they didn't ban certain things that got really annoying, so then people stopped playing that, including me. And now we're here in Gen 9, and I definitely do not play Gen 9. I think Gen 9 went way too fucking far in terms of power creep. It was ridiculous. And I'm sure he'll talk about it in this video. I don't remember every little point in this video, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about power creep from my perspective before we even get into this video, because I do think that he's going to bring up similar points, but I think there's some things I won't fully agree with in this video. In terms of power creep in general in Pokemon, in the video games, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know why they have power creep in the video games. It literally makes no sense. It makes it actually worse for the game, and I'll tell you why. Unlike something like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, right? Every new set that comes out, it has to be better because they want you to buy the product, right? If they didn't come out with the Malice cards, and the Raizio cards in that deck building set, that product would have sucked, and it would not have been a good product, right? You can think of something like Amazing Defenders as a fantastic example, where the best deck in that set would probably be Sulfur, and they're not even all that great. They're like they're good, but they're certainly not tier 1 or tier 0, even in their release time. So that set bombed, and to this day it's like, I think it's like $40 to $50 to get a box of that set. So I bought like 4 of them, and that's how I pulled all these cards, because no one had them, because this set sucked, right? And then you look at something like Tactical Masters. This is another deck building set. I'm just going to stay with the same set, right? We have 3 different decks, right? We have Valence, right? Who, I know I haven't made the video yet. I scripted it, and I just haven't done the recording for it. Yeah, I did the recording, and I didn't like it anymore, so I scrapped it, and now I got to do it all over again. But anyway, Valence, which is one of my favorite decks of all time, but it's definitely the worst deck of the 3, right? It's still very good. And at launch, I would say this was probably the best deck of the 3. Maybe not in hindsight, but it seemed that way. And then we had Labyrinth, which at the time seemed like the worst deck of the 3, because you didn't have most of the new support. If you look at this, I believe it went up to this. It went up to Barrage here, and then these 3 got released. And this was extremely good. This was unbelievably good. And this was just flat out stupid. This was just stupid and ridiculous. Everything before it just kind of fell flat, and it wasn't really all that interesting to most people. And then you had the one that everyone hates, which is Runic, was also in this set. So this set in general had some really annoying decks. Like Valence was kind of an exception, and I'm not biased at all. But yeah, this was annoying, and Labyrinth was pretty annoying. So people were pretty annoyed with that set. But if they didn't make the set like that, no one would have bought it. And sure enough, Most people bought it for Runic, right? That was the thing, was most people bought it for Runic, because Runic was such a good deck. And if they didn't make it, people would not buy the product, right? If you look at tier elements, you look at Power of the Elements, right? Most of these cards are banned or limited. This was the biggest power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, right? You have to look at it from this perspective. I know we're 5 minutes in and I still haven't gone to the video, but just understand what I'm trying to say here. This set was insane. And the next set after that had to be a banger, right? We had to have Darkwing Blast be good. It wasn't. Like, it was good, but it needed to be followed up with something even better, which it was. It was followed up by Photon Hypernova, which was insane. But Darkwing Blast did include Fenrir, right? It included most of the Castura names you all know and love, right? It included up to this, I believe. And then Photon Hypernova included all this shit and this shit. I think this was later, but this card sucks, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, all this other stuff, this 7 was all in one set, and you can tell it was very, very impactful. And this 6 was in Darkwing Blast, which you would think would be very impactful, but it wasn't as impactful as it was until after Tier Elements got hit, and then it was impactful. And it was extremely impactful when we got to this set. So, again, power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon TCG makes sense because you have to buy the product, right? And if you're not gonna buy the product if the product is not more strong than the previous set. Pokemon video games do not have this problem because if you think about it, right? If I go to Pokemon Showdown, let's say that all the Pokemon in Gen 9 were fucking ass. Let's say they were all complete ass, complete dog shit, right? Do I have a Gen 9 team? I don't even think I do. This would probably be it, I guess. But, like, okay, this was an early Gen 9 team, by the way, so, like, please keep in mind that I wasn't really doing anything special. But anyways, like, if you looked at the Gen 9 list and you were like, man, all these Pokemon suck balls, like, are you going to not buy the game? No, because you in order for VGC to be relevant, they have to have people buy the game, but at the same time, people aren't going to not buy the game because they want to keep playing the competitive game, and it's not like the game's going to get stale or anything, because you're still making new Pokemon that have potential to do certain things. But the way that they've done it in this generation, in Gen 9 in particular, and I'd say even before that, I'd say even Gen 8. Look at Gen 8. Look at the stats, right? What the hell are we doing here? We have 142 speed, which is obscene for a Pokemon that has 120 base power. I don't think we have anything anywhere close to that in before in the previous times, right? Like, and then we have, like, again, like Gen 8/Gen 9 Pokemon, we have this shit. Look at, like, the stat spreads are crazy. Like, you have, like, these bar charts that are, like, insane, right? Like, Blissey used to be the bar chart, right? But now it's like everything's a bar chart. Everything competes with Blissey. Cinderace from Gen 8, right? We have another Greninja on our hands here. They were like, man, we didn't pop off on the Gen 7 ones. Let's make Greninja 2, right? It's just insane. This thing, another bar chart. Look at this. 35 speed. They knew what they were doing. Look at this, right? It's insane. And they keep going. It keeps going. This one's kind of a weird exception. This one's kind of balanced, actually. And it is good, but I think it's a move pool thing. Like, look at this, right? We have shit like this. And, like, I don't know, it's just and this is just the stats. If I look at move pools are insane. I think he's going to talk about that in the video as well. Like, we're getting to the, like, why do we need this? The people are going to buy the games regardless of if the Pokemon are good or not. Because you can't not have the new Pokemon available to you as an option, right? It's just not going to happen. There is no reason for them to make power creep in this game and keep making more powerful Pokemon. There is no reason to facilitate more powerful Pokemon. And if you look, there are very few early gen Pokemon in this game anymore. Blissey's still up there because it's always been very good. Clefable's up here because of Gen 6 and 7, to be honest. It's not really because of it being a Gen 1 mon or whatever. It's really not that at all. Darkrai moved down, right? Because it got nerfed like 20 times. Dragonite is technically a Gen 5 thing, right? Because of the hidden ability. What else we got here? There's, like, I guess Gliscor, I guess. I don't really know. I'm surprised he's actually up here. But like, dude, anything that's Gen 4 or before just doesn't exist. I'm shocked this is up here. I don't even know why this is up here. I would have to assume this is a Terra diff. I have no fucking clue. Because pre-Gen 9, this thing was ass. Like, it's super ass. But yeah, like, do you get my point yet? Do you see what's happening here? Do you see how many Pokemon are Gen 9 and Gen 8? Do you see the problem? I think there's a problem here, right? Now, mind you, I think I'm in... Oh, no, I'm in Gen 9 OU. So, yeah. Like, guys, this is insane. This is too much. We need to stop making good Pokemon too much. And Gen 5 had the same problem. We had, you know, like, look, Volcarona's banned. I don't even know why it's banned. I'm assuming it's a Terra diff. I didn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Gen 5 was the start of it. That really ruined the game for everyone. And it never got better. It just kept getting worse. So, I don't know, man. I think power creep in Pokemon video games doesn't make any fucking sense. Because, again, people are going to buy the product no matter what. It doesn't have to be good Pokemon. Look at Gen 2. How many Gen 2 Pokemon are good now? They're not. I don't think there's a single one that's even... They're in UU. There's a couple in UU. Like, probably Kingdra's in there, I'd have to assume. But, like, there's nothing in OU. Zero. I don't think I saw a single one when we looked at this just now. Blissey, I guess. That's the only one, right? But Blissey's not even technically... Well, I guess it is Gen 2, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like the Gliscor thing. It's technically not a Gen 4 Pokemon, but the point is, this is too much. We need to stop, right? And this is probably what he's going to talk about in this video. So we're going to finally watch the video. It's been 11 minutes. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Let's watch the video now.
Power creep is generally defined as the process by which new released content is stronger than previous content, making that previous content feel obsolete and irrelevant. In the context of Pokemon, where this new content is being released every generation, and recently within the same generation from DLC, the term is present now more than ever. Now, a lot of fans say this with the implication of it being a bad thing, but is that really the case? In this video, I'm going to be uncovering my case for power creep, and why it is not necessarily a bad thing. But before getting into that,
that's crazy. I disagree.
A general idea of what power creep looks like, both in terms of the numbers and the more specific details
like, look,
of it.
Okay, he probably chose these Pokemon on purpose, but like, I've never seen anyone use any of these except for maybe Heracross and maybe Kabutops. In any form of high tier play, maybe in like RU, I would see like maybe a Magcargo and maybe a Poliwrath. That's it, right? And then I think he definitely like made a point here, like
stats.
Negatively, but
Here are the
whatever.
average Pokemon base stat totals of each generation, which excludes Megas and Primal forms. If you look at the first
this is probably skewed too because there's 100 legendaries in Gen 4, so that's why this is so high.
408, 407,
You could argue that Gen 4 was a massive power creep, but I would debate otherwise.
Even if we include Megas and Primals, the first three generations base stat totals only increased to 427, 419, and 436. Still over 20 points lower than Gen 7, 8, and 9. Let's also take a closer look at one stat in particular, speed. Speed is arguably the most important stat on a Pokemon in battle, and while the average speed
Gen
stat
2,
has hovered right at
taking
68
L's,
for most
always.
generations, Gen 8's average speed stat is 73, higher than all previous generations, and Gen 9's average base speed stat is 77.
Yeah, I think that's also, again, the bar chart diff, right? With the stats.
Next, let's look at moves, specifically base power of attacking moves. These two graphs show the average base power of all physical and special attacking moves in each generation, excluding moves with varying base power, multi-hit moves, Z moves, unusable moves, and any moves exclusive to Let's Go or Legends. These don't have nearly as much of an apparent upward trend compared to base stats.
I don't think this is that relevant.
Moves had their base power increase.
I think move pools is more important than the move base powers,
which is the almost complete lack of weak moves introduced in newer games. Out of the 115 single-hit fixed base power attacking moves introduced in generations 8 and 9, only 4 of them have a base power lower than 50. Even out of those 4, 3 of
most of them are broken.
Very strong secondary
Branch Poke's the only one that
Snap
sucks.
Trap is a binding move, so it traps the target and damages them by 1/8 of their max HP for 4 to 5 turns. Salt Cure has a secondary effect that it deals 1/8 of the target's max HP every turn, and 1/4 if they are water or steel type. And Mortal Spin is a spread damaging move in doubles that poisons both targets while also removing binding effects from the user and hazards from the user side
Mortal
of the field.
Spin's probably
This
the
leaves
worst
Branch
one of
Poke
those
as
three.
the only single hit attacking move
But yeah.
introduced in Gens 8 and 9 with a fixed base power lower than 50 with no secondary effect. Lastly, in this section, let's look at abilities and items. These are a little harder to quantify because unlike moves and base stats, abilities and items don't really have any numbers attached to them. We really don't need to rely on any numbers though when the abilities in the last two generations are so insanely broken. How about an ability that lets you hit through Protect?
Yeah.
How about terrain and weather
I didn't even talk about abilities, but yeah, that's a fantastic point. And that's why I think Gen 5 is the biggest power creep we ever had at the time, right? Like not even remotely close to Gen 4's or not even remotely close to Gen 4's power creep in terms of Gen 4 being a lot less. Cuz Gen 5, everything got hidden abilities that made them fucking insane. You would never see Ninetales in competitive play ever until Gen 5 when they gave it Drought. You would never see Torkoal in competitive play ever until people noticed how good weather was, right? It's truly a Gen 5 diff. Once again, Gen 5 and Gen 9, I'd even say Gen 7, all had these power creep problems more than any other gen. I think the odd number gens just fuck everything up because, I don't know, like Gen 7, we had Ultra Beasts. They all had the fucked up Beast Boost, right? That's an insanely good ability. All the Tapus had the terrain abilities, which were insane. Like, it's too much. It's way too much, man. They got too much going on here.
Also grant an attacking power boost. How about an ability that not only grants immunity to status
fuck
conditions,
this.
but also gives you a ghost resistance? How about an ability that's literally just two abilities in one? How about an ability that passively lowers a stat of all surrounding Pokemon? How about an ability that makes you immune to all status moves?
That's fucked,
Meanwhile, abilities in older games have no chance of keeping up with the abilities today. All they did was prevent one specific status condition, or prevent one specific stat from
I
being
agree with
lowered.
this too.
Yes, there are obviously good abilities in previous games, but you get my point. For the newly
Yeah, but
introduced items,
nothing that
most
has
of them
huge power is actually like abusing it that way, except for like Mawile. That's it.
haven't gotten significantly stronger, just different and more situational. Some of them, though, straight up just have the effects of old abilities. Clear Amulet is literally just Full Metal Body the item.
I think
is literally
items
just Shield Dust the item.
I don't like this discussion because I think items is the one exception where it feels like we're just making items more interesting, because I feel like for years we've been stuck on Life Orb leftovers, choice items, heavy duty boots. You know what I'm saying? In fact, heavy duty boots was the catalyst. Well, no, really, it was Assault Vest. Assault Vest was the catalyst to really like change items to make items more attractive to the competitive game. I think this is the only part I don't agree with, where I do actually like. I like the new items in the new games, and I feel like we need more stuff that's like weaker ability replacements, not like overpowered abilities, but like weaker ability replacements. Like, no one's really wanting to use Shield Dust, but Covert Cloak, that's a great idea.
And Loaded Dice is a slightly worse version of Skill Link as an item. All of the items from previous games still exist too, we just now have even more options.
That's fine.
Now that we know what power creep looks like, next we need to understand why it's a thing. Think of power creep like inflation. Inflation is the substantial rise in the general level of prices in an economy. Stable economies have low inflation, but they do have it. Inflation is what keeps things competitive, and it's good.
Don't worry, Canada knows all about this
shit.
shit.
It encourages people to spend money, which stimulates the economy. It is not good for an economy to have very high inflation or negative inflation. Very high inflation causes consumers to be able to afford less and less in a shorter period of time, leading to a shortage in housing, food, and other necessities. Negative inflation or deflation causes people to hoard money, which can delay spending as people are holding their money in anticipation of it being more valuable later, therefore not stimulating the economy. In the same way, it is healthy for Pokemon to get a little stronger with every game to keep up with the demand for Pokemon media. Look at it from the perspective of the Pokemon Company. Would it really be the best marketing strategy to only release new Pokemon that are the same or weaker than previous Pokemon?
Yes, because no matter what, there's always going to be a new idea that can still be implemented that isn't necessarily that much better than the next Pokemon, right? Like, you know, you don't need to make everything better than Dragapult because Dragapult was a previous gen. We don't have to do that. We can have one that's better than Dragapult by accident. That's fine. But these have been all intentionally better than the previous Pokemon every fucking time. It feels like, you know, even though people are harkening back to, like, getting Megas back, right? Because they're making worse Pokemon better, which is what we need. It's what we've been needing for years, right? Instead, we keep getting fucking Terra and Gigantamaxing, which isn't working. Gigantamax sucks. It just doesn't work. We just keep getting garbage. That's not making older Pokemon better. We're just keep making new Pokemon that are just plain better. And that's not the same. I disagree with this sentiment completely. If you have new Pokemon, they don't all have to be broken. They can be... It's okay for them to be as good or worse than older Pokemon. Because at the end of the day, giving Dragonite multiscale was an accident, but it was a happy accident. And you can get rid of that accident too. Gengar lost Levitate. You can remove the accident. Just extract it from the concoction. It's that simple. I don't know why they don't just do that. They already removed fucking 200 Pokemon from the game. You might as well do that too. Like,
I don't think so. Going back to one of my previous examples with moves, do we really need a new Tackle, or Ember, or Vine Whip, or Water Gun, or any other weak early game move?
No.
They'll be used for like 10 levels in a playthrough.
So he agrees with me on moves though, but he's
an actual good stab move. That same thing applies to an extent with the new Pokemon released overall, just one of the reasons why they tend to be stronger. Additionally, while Pokemon are definitely getting stronger, the game is also just changing so much overall. Before Gen 4, we didn't even have physical and special moves. Instead, entire types were physical and special, which is one of the reasons why some Pokemon prior to Gen 4 were built to be mixed attackers. Their dual typing had one physical type and one special type, so they needed both of their attacking stats to be high to get any meaningful stab damage. Now that we have the physical special split, they can't just change these Pokemon stats completely. Thus, they are stuck with a less than ideal stat distribution because their stats were made without the physical special split in mind. Newer Pokemon might not even have a higher base stat total, but since their stats were made with the physical special split in mind, they are distributed much more efficiently, what many refer to.
But I also think that, again, if we look at Dragapult, you could say it's poorly distributed, but it's not, right? It's 140 speed, and then you still have both attacking stats are still very good. It's 120 and 100, right? So I don't agree with this this point either. Because, again, you can make him a mixed attacker, you could make him a physical attacker, or a special attacker. There is no problem with this. This is not poorly distributed, in my opinion. I think that, rather, the other Pokemon are just gimmickly distributed, rather than well-distributed. That's, I think that's a very subjective... I guess it is a subjective term overall between what I said and what he said, but I just feel like it truly makes them a one-trick pony, whereas something like Dragapult it does a lot of things good, and it does a lot of things very interestingly. Obviously, the 142 speed probably helps with that, but it's not the only thing that makes it insane, so I don't agree with the sentiment either. And he said something earlier as well that kind of confused me. Something about this?
No. They'll be used for like 10 levels in a playthrough and will be replaced as soon as your Pokemon learns an actual good stab. That same thing applies to an extent with the new Pokemon released overall.
I don't agree with that.
Reasons why they tend to be stronger.
I don't think so, right? Because, again, like, how many times have they made a steel poison type Pokemon? I think there's only the one line, right? Pretty sure. There's still types that don't exist in the game yet. And there's still, like, type combinations. There's still types with abilities that haven't combined yet, right? Like, the reason why Toxicroak was so interesting in lower tiers back in the day was because it had dry skin. And that's an interesting ability for something like that to have. The reason why Goodra is so interesting is because it has multiple good abilities, including Sap Sipper in the Hisuian form, I believe, right? So, again, it's just really odd I can't remember if it's the Hisuian form or the regular form that has it, but the point is that the abilities are good on it, on both of them. And I think the point here is overall lost. There's still many combinations of things that we can still do to make Pokemon still interesting and not necessarily be overpowered. We don't want to keep retreading the same thing, but at the same time, like, you can make new abilities. They just don't have to be batshit fucking insane, like Salt Cure or whatever. Or whatever the hell that stupid Gargantual Pokemon has. Let's go back to this part, though.
Pokemon might not even have a higher base stat total, but since their stats were made with the physical special split in mind, they are distributed much more efficiently, what many refer to as min-maxing. I actually covered this concept in 2 shorts I released on my channel, but to be honest, this is kind of a shallow and surface level definition of min-maxing. All I did in these shorts was find the biggest differences between stats, with the first one being
it doesn't really matter because there's a lot of like
attack,
random Pokemon like
the
Deoxys Speed and Shuckle and shit.
Min-maxing is really more in the spirit of
I do like those videos though,
distributing
go
stats
watch them.
efficiently, so minimizing the stats you don't need and maximizing the stats you do need, something that a lot of the Pokemon I mentioned do not do. Sure, Shuckle and Steelix have big differences in stats, but Shuckle desperately needs more HP, and Steelix desperately needs more special defense, so I would not really consider these to be efficient stat distributions.
I think that's this is a good point, but it's sort of lost in the sense that, you know, Steelix isn't really meant to be a special defender. He's meant to be a physical defender. I feel like HP here would be just fine. We don't necessarily need to have insane special. It's kind of like Avalugg, right? The reason why Avalugg didn't work is because it is sort of logically like Steelix, but it's an ice type too on top of that, which makes it even worse. I think Rock and well, Steel is different, but Rock and Ice in particular are not really physically defensive types. They're very good. Very good ideas for physically defensive types. Maybe specially defensive. But yeah, like physically it's tough because you have water and fire that are big problems, and a lot of special moves are water and fire, so yeah, I don't know.
Efficient stat distributions. Efficient stat distributions typically involve one attacking stat being high and the other being low, since that attacking stat will not be used.
Unless
it
it's
could
speed.
also look like having a low speed stat if being fast is not an essential part of a Pokemon's game plan, or if being slow is beneficial to operate better in Trick Room.
Yeah.
Newer Pokemon tend to have more efficient distributions in their stats, even if they don't have as big of differences between any 2 stats.
Sure, that's Cresselia basically.
Min-maxing in terms of the difference between attack and special attack, Gen 9 is the highest at an average of 38.
That's sort of what I was talking about. This is what I agree with. This is the bar chart diff, right? Again, look at the Gen 9 difference. We have 38 base stat difference of average attack and special attack by generation. This is crazy. Although I think I wish I could see highest attack and highest defense difference, because I think it would probably be a much larger number here, and maybe here too. Maybe even here.
Being in third,
but you can see again those 3 gens.
Physical attacking stall Pokemon that has no need for a high
like this is ridiculous. I fully agree with this particular one. I think this one is ridiculous because you have 100 attack, 100 HP, 130 defense, 90 special defense. It's clearly a physical attacker that has insane defensive stats, and it's perfect in Trick Room. This is too much.
Special attack or speed stat. Look at Iron Hands, a bulky Trick Room physical attacker that has no need for a high special attack or speed stat.
Yeah.
Look at Roaring Moon, a fast physical attacker that has no need for a high special attack.
Yeah, just doing the Gen 9 thing.
Look at almost any of the cross-generational evolutions, with King Gambit, Ursaluna, and Annihilate being by far the worst offenders. With them, Game Freak isn't even trying to hide it anymore, as they all lose speed and or special attack from their prior evolutions to have better physical attack and bulk. This is really more
it's pretty funny actually.
Maxing, which has been done more egregiously in recent generations.
They're basically like, fuck, we can't do megas anymore because that means that we've lost all ideas. Fuck it. Let's just make evolutions of these Pokemon, even though these Pokemon never mind. Let's just make new evolutions and make them batshit fucking insane.
Major mechanic change was the introduction of the Fairy type in Gen 6, and although some Pokemon from mechanic change would have been done more egregiously in recent generations. Another major mechanic change was the introduction of the Fairy type in Gen 6, and although some Pokemon from prior generations were given the Fairy type even though they previously were not Fairy type, they were still originally made without the Fairy type in mind. The Fairy type also seems to have been made without balance in mind, as it quickly became the strongest type in the game in Gen 6 with how good it was both offensively and defensively.
I think that was bound to happen, though, to be fair. If you look at the lineup of Pokemon that they gave this to, right, a lot of these Pokemon are already, they were really good, but they needed a little push, right, to be able to be top-tier Pokemon. Togekiss was kind of bound to be good from this by default, because you're giving it a better typing than normal flying. Normal flying is pretty bad, if we're really thinking about it. Fairy over normal is just better. Fairy Steel is kind of an interesting one, but yeah, it is a bit much. It made it kind of unique and special, though. I think that's at least neat. And yeah, it pushed this thing over the edge when it became a Mega and did that, obviously. I think Gardevoir was already really good. So yeah, this was a bit much. I remember when Fairy was first being announced, and I remember this being at the forefront. This and Whimsicott. Everyone was kind of like, oh god, these two are going to be scary. They didn't even consider Azumarill. And now Azumarill is a problem. There's also Grubble behind me, but you don't have to worry about that, or Gramble. Because, yeah, he's just okay. But yeah, this was scary. I would even say Mr. Mime was kind of a big deal. Because he was ass before. Now he's like, actually, he's okay. Right? He's not amazing. Maybe he's now. I don't know. With Mr. Rhyme, I guess he would be really good. But I don't know. I think Mr. Mime's okay, right? This buffed him. I don't think that's a problem. I think that some of the newer fairies were more of a problem than anything in this top half. With like if we swap Azumarill and Whimsicott, I feel like Whimsicott and everything up here, with the exception of Azumarill, were way less of an issue than the new fairy types that came out in the game. So like Aromatisse. Or Aromatis, whatever the fuck you pronounce it. I don't know, whatever. You had Florges was a fucking annoying Pokemon. Klefki, right? I feel like these things are more annoying than anything up here. With the again, Azumarill being an exception, it was kind of annoying. And like these were definitely the four horsemen of the I'm coming back to haunt you apocalypse. But this one didn't matter as much because this got banned immediately, so we figured it out, but yeah.
Not Fairy type, they were still originally made without the Fairy type in mind. The Fairy type also seems to have been made without balance in mind, as it quickly became the strongest type in the game in Gen 6 with how good it was both offensively and defensively. It is definitely not as pronounced as the strongest type in the game anymore, and I would say now it's more of a toss-up between Fairy, Water, and Steel. Either way,
I think this is interesting. I think the best type in the game is still Flying, to be honest. Flying is ridiculous. There's so many reasons why Flying, if you have a strong Flying type Pokemon, and it has a really strong Flying type move on it, I feel like there are very few Pokemon that want to switch in on a Revenge Killer Flying type Pokemon. Like Talonflame, there's a reason why it was one of the best Pokemon in Gen 6, right? Again, I guess I'm talking from the Gen 6 thoughts, but like even in Gen 9, we have like Corviknight, right? I guess we have Moltres now. It seems to be for some fucked up reason, it seems to be in there. We have Dragonite, we have Enamorus. I think Flying is better than Water. I think Water is better as a coverage move, not necessarily a type on the Pokemon. Gliscor, imagine if this thing wasn't flying. This thing would be fucking ass. Do you understand what I'm saying? Landorus, this thing's been here forever, and it's still a problem. It's not even because it's flying, but, well, it is because it's flying. But, like, holy shit, this thing is insane. Moltres, again, like I said. Zapdos is here, too. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and because we've slowly gotten, and like Galarian Moltres too, and, you know, Pelipper, like, because we've gotten to the point where now we can We can make rain happen more often too. We can do like stuff like Pelipper where we have Hurricane, right, all the time. So that's kind of scary. I don't know. I think flying might be the best type in the game still. I could be wrong. I would be very curious to see what top players have to say about that, but
Newer Pokemon are made with the fairy type in mind, while older Pokemon were not. Power creep is not just a thing in gaming, by the way. We see this in real life. We'll get power creep in sports. Athletes are just getting better and better as we have more advanced technology, medicine, and training to accommodate those athletes.
That's just
that we
evolution.
Didn't have 50 to 100
this is
years
propaganda.
Ago. Athletes like Babe Ruth or Johnny Unitas dominated in their respective leagues in their day, and they were some of the first superstars for their time, but let's be honest, they would have no chance today. If you're a sports fan like me, you've probably heard the common argument that invalidates the stats of many athletes before, say, the 1980s, which is that it was a completely different game from then to now. One of the reasons that Babe Ruth was able to hit as many home runs as he did was because the pitching was way worse. One of the reasons that Johnny Unitas was such a dominant quarterback in his day was because the defense was way worse. These players were absolutely still good, but since the players of
people are always pushed to their limits. I don't think this is as comparable to a video game. I'm going to be honest.
1900s would have no chance.
I would not compare this to a video game.
Not only
personally,
have people just gotten better at the sport, but the sport has
we don't have evolution of humans in the same way that we have evolutions of Pokemon.
There's really no way to tell if this actually
no pun intended.
True, though, but I do think that this argument has a lot of merit behind it. Power creep is just inevitable in gaming, especially in Pokemon where we have new content being released every generation. Like I said with inflation, a little bit of it is good, but it is bad if it is done excessively. So the question then becomes, has power creep been done excessively? Has the power level of newer Pokemon gotten so high that it throws the entire balance of the game out of whack?
Yes.
Overall, no, I don't think so. However, that's not to say that there are not excessive cases of power creep at all. What I consider to be the most excessive cases of power creep in recent generations are the Calyrex Riders, Urshifu, and Fluttermane. If you've seen my The Biggest Cheaters in Pokemon video, you'll already know what I said about Calyrex and Urshifu that make them so insanely broken. But to sum it up, the Calyrex Riders have such insane highs with no drawbacks. They
Very interesting that there's 3 Gen 8s in this.
Unlike other legendaries. Their attack and special attack are higher than almost all other legendaries. Their signature moves are not only stronger than most legendary Pokemon signature moves, but they are also more accurate with no additional drawback. They have 2 abilities at once that for some reason can't even be neutralized by neutralizing gas.
These are VGC strong though. These are terrible Pokemon. Well, sorry, the ice one is whatever in
crits through reflect and hits multiple
Gen 8
times
if I'm not mistaken.
To break substitutes,
unless I'm thinking just the naked
when saying all
horse.
This out loud,
maybe I'm thinking the naked horse and not Calyrex Ice.
Were even thinking when making these Pokemon. Actually, I know exactly what they were thinking. DLC privilege. Fluttermane, on the other hand, is not a DLC Pokemon. I might even
I think the DLC in general was just a bad idea. I don't know. I did not buy them. I voted with my wallet. The games have not gotten better. They didn't look better. They didn't perform any better. So after I beat the game, I was like, yeah, this is good. I'm happy. And so when the DLC got announced, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm not buying it.
Makes it a worse case of power creep. Since the justification of
and so therefore I also didn't really follow the competitive scene at that point either.
Really be said with Fluttermane. The issue with Fluttermane is that it just takes min-maxing to the extreme, with 135 in special attack, special defense, and speed.
Doesn't it have that sort of spread though with Miss Magus? Yeah. So I mean, it goes with the theming. So in fairness, they kind of had to do it, but like also like I get what he's saying. It is extreme, but again, like I don't think it's necessarily just the stat spread that's a problem. I feel like there's more to it. If the move pool was shit, there wouldn't be an issue.
A ghost fairy type, an excellent offensive typing. Now I know that some Pokemon from previous generations have higher differences between 2 or more stats, but like I said earlier with min-maxing, Fluttermane uses these stats very efficiently. The only justification I can think of for Fluttermane to have stats like this is that Miss Drevis, its distant relative,
Oh, he's
has a
talking
similar
about it.
looking stat distribution of the same top 3 stats and the same bottom 3 stats, with the bottom 3 stats being higher. If we were to scale up Miss Drevis's stats to Fluttermane's base stat total using the same ratios though, it would be more along the lines of this. So Fluttermane is clearly min-maxed. So those are the most excessive cases of
Like,
power
they
creep in my
went a
opinion,
little bit
but I would
overboard, like,
also
I
to
get it,
discuss
but
good examples of power
again,
creep.
it wouldn't
These are
matter if the
Pokemon
move
that are
pool was
clearly
shit, but
meant
it
to be
isn't. The move
stronger,
pool's
but
insane,
not
so that's
so
what
much
makes it a
stronger that they are
problem.
unbalanced. So what I consider to be just some of the best examples of power creep done in moderation are Rillaboom, Zamazenta, Ogerpon, and Goldengo.
Man,
Take a
I
look at
don't agree at all. Holy shit. These two especially, I don't agree one bit. This thing should not have been able to fucking grassy glide. This thing should not have been allowed to glide across the grass at any point. This thing was too fucking much. I don't agree at all. This thing was obnoxious in draft. I hated it. It was awful. This thing looks stupid and broken in every situation, in singles and doubles. No thank you. I'm good.
these Pokemon stats. Yes, they all
I
have
also
big
heard
differences between their
Ogerpon's
attack
insane,
and
but
special attack, clearly min-maxing, but not to the extent
I think he's
Fluttermane.
talking too much about stats. I think he's a little bit too obsessed with the stat totals and not focusing too enough on move pools and like because some Pokemon have insane stat totals, but their move pools are fucking ass. And then you have stuff like I think Heracross is only maybe better than Pinsir. With like obviously it has a better stat total I think to an extent or like a better stat distribution, but its move pool is just better, right? Meganium would be okay if it had a decent move pool, or no, I think it's the opposite. Sorry, I'm trying to think what Pokemon it was. It's not Meganium. It was, oh my god, not Torterra. What the hell? Sceptile. Sceptile's move pool is very mid. If it wasn't mid in the move pool department, it would have been much better in the competitive format because it didn't have like terrible stats. Its stats were okay, but the move pool sucked. So it just wasn't good. Then when it got Mega, it got Dragon, which was okay.
Don't even really use them.
But it
Ogerpon
like
is very good. But it's
it
the
really
poster child
just
of the
got
first
beat
Scarlet
up
and Violet
immediately.
DLC, so it can get some special treatment. And Goldengo's actually has a drawback of lowering special attack, unlike the Calyrex riders. Furthermore, Zamazenta and Ogerpon have to hold items to enter into their alternate forms, unlike Calyrex. Rillaboom and Goldengo have low enough speed stats that they will need to rely on priority, speed control, or taking a hit before getting...
That's the problem. He does. He relies on priority to the max extent. So it's not good. It's not healthy.
Move, unlike Fluttermane and Shadow Rider, which just outspeed everything. None of them hit their protect, or have any stats higher than 140, or have a difference of 80 between their attacking stats, or have 2 abilities at once, or always land critical hits, or hit multiple times, or any stupid gimmick like that. They were actually made with balance in mind, which is how power creep should be done. But that's just my opinion. My opinion on why power creep is not necessarily a bad thing.
While I did disagree with a lot of things in the video, you have to agree with a lot of the things that he did say in general, though. I still really like this video. I think it's a fantastic discussion, and I think he did a fantastic job making this video and bringing up his points. And I do think that he probably has a lot of people that agree with him. Let's look at the like to dislike ratio. I mean, I liked the video, and you know, clearly the people they agree with a lot of the takes here. I think that there's a little bit more to it personally, and that's why I disagree with a lot of things in the video. But I'm not mad this video exists at all. I actually love this video. I think it's a fantastic video and should get more love. 48,000 is not enough. This guy needs more love. So please go watch this video on loop with your phone unlocked on the desk. Give him 1 million views so he can get $1 kajillion, make more videos. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. Because we're going to be doing more stuff like this at some point. But I really wanted to talk about this particular video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Final thoughts. Power creep is too much in Pokemon. Personally, I think it's too much. And they should relax. And everything I said in the video is my reasons for it. But that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out.